therefore I picked this topic, and before I start, I will just prompt you guys to reflect on what are your most effective study strategies. So most of you, like all of you, are at Purdue, right? So this is one of the best universities in the country. So you are academically successful people. So since elementary school, middle school, high school, you guys do something. Something is happening, and you are going through these. You have some effective study strategies, some habits you guys are doing. They are different. So I'm just going to pass these papers. These are just blank papers, or you can use your own notebooks. So I just want you to write literally 3 things, okay, that you guys typically do, like effective study strategies. Write it down, do it individually, and I will just wait for like a minute, okay? Write down 3 things. I mean, there is no right or wrong on this one. It's just your personal thing, right? What do? You're taking all these engineering classes, physics, calculus, programming, and they are tough classes. So how do you handle those things? Sometimes you have multiple finals in one day, projects, deadlines. All right, 15 seconds. I literally keep track of time now with my stopwatch. All right, I hope you all write down these 3 things at least. So, second question, according to you, these are effective study strategies, and how do you know they are effective? Okay, so that's one question. And another question is, why do you think they are effective? So how do you think they are effective is different than why do you think they are effective, because how do you know? You can measure, right? So you can say, based on a certain exam, based on my GPA, based on my double measure, based on all the exam tests, based on all my fellowships, these things are effective. But the question, why do you think they're effective? So that part, okay, again, take some time, like 30 seconds, talk to someone, okay? So talk to a person just next to you and try to address, how do you know they're effective? You may skip that one because it's pretty easy to answer that one. Why do you think they're effective? So that's part of reflection, okay? That's part of my research. So I prompt people to reflect on their experiences. And I will explain more in details how we do this at scale. So just pick someone close to you, okay? So you may know each other already, or you have no idea who that person is. It's fine. Thank you.
You know how like some people make flashcards and they have the answer. What the answer is on your note card and then match it together. I don't know why I do that, but it's just great. Like, that's hilarious. Yeah, and then like, and I think I kind of the same thing. Worked so far well. We're both in Purdue, so it worked great. I think it's just like I feel like I kind of like those, which is something that I don't know if everybody gets. But that's just something I still want to do.
Do you highlight the most important stuff?
Yeah, I really like, especially like from equations. But I don't know.
You three, talk to each other. Don't be shy. I know you all work in teams, right?
But if it helps. Something I never did when I started doing. Did it help you? Like I try to read those things.
Like, I don't know anything. When it came back, like, that was really so, like, last semester, I didn't, like, take tests as previous semester, but I took in a lot of quizzes and counts, and I've been done here. So, yeah, exactly. I'm in college right now, so I took pre-cloud last semester. I don't know why I did that shit, just think that was
All right, so because of the time limits, I have to move forward. I would like to hear one or two, an example of effective study strategy. How do you know that one is effective? And why do you think that's effective? Can we hear from you guys? We have around 50 people.
For me, I always listen to music because it helps me focus, and then when I'm more focused, I get more done.
Okay, so it makes you focused, and you work harder when you're focused. Okay, what else? Please, after you.
Well, I went around the basis of repetition's the mother of retention.
Mhm.
So things that can go along those lines, like flashcards, reviewing notes.
So repetitions of. Okay, so go ahead.
That was it.
Yeah.
Just doing stuff over and over again, you'll remember it.
For remembering, yes, that's definitely effective.
I have the exact same thing, but I also go through practice problems. I go through them enough times.
Mhm.
It makes me remember what I'm doing.
So, what else? What other example?
I watch YouTube videos and it gives me like a different perspective than like lectures do.
So for a certain topic, I mean, you're probably watching something related to what you're trying to understand, right? Okay. So definitely, you're listening from others. So, okay, let's look at from a different perspective, okay? So I asked in the first one, effective study strategy. Now I'm asking behavior, okay, not the strategy, because we all have these ineffective study behaviors. For me, I kind of postpone things. That's my, not something I am proud of. But I'm aware of that, so I'm trying to tackle this problem. So can you write down again, like ineffective study behavior? Maybe you don't have any, but it's really poisonous. All right, instead of pair, share, can we hear directly from you guys? Can you give us some examples, some ineffective behaviors?
I procrastinate on studying for my exams. So like, instead of studying like a couple days before, I'll wait till like the night before and then try and learn
Yeah, that's very common actually, like not you postponing things, same thing, right? So there is this feeling or behavior we do. What else?
I'm not sure if this counts, but sometimes I get overconfident and then I don't study.
That's definitely part of it, like being overconfident. So there's a problem with how we calibrate things. You know, we feel we know, but actually it's not true. What else?
Watching Netflix while studying.
Yeah, unfortunately, all these, you know, high-speed internet thing.
Yeah, like just getting distracted, or if I keep getting like a bunch of text messages or
Mhm.
something.
So that distraction and related to, you know, it's opposite of, you know, being focused, right? So listening music and being focused versus starting to watching all these TV series.
I think that online classes sometimes are a little bit more challenging for me.
Yeah, it's for me too. I mean, for example, I try to read from paper still. You know, most of my books are still paper-based. You know, I try these electronic devices. If it is connected to the internet, it's just I'm getting something, a message or email. It's just ruining everything. I start doing something else. What else?
Like getting discouraged if I'm getting something wrong on homework or like not understanding a topic.
Mhm.
I'll be like, oh, I'll like take a break or go to another topic and then like
Mhm.
not come back to it. till
So
later.
yeah, more motivation-related things, right? You know, sometimes when it is struggling, we discourage, things like that. What else?
I just talk to people instead of doing the work.
I mean, sometimes it's effective if you guys really doing studying with someone for a certain exam or a certain task. It is effective, definitely. But if of course, if you're just chatting and having fun, definitely. So most of these things are related to distractions, right? So it's, you know, you're not paying attention to tasks that you are focusing on, so you are wasting your time most of it. So how do you know they are ineffective? Again, it's relatively easy. You know you're performing poorly, or you know you didn't understand, and once you see an exam question or a project report or something that you need to perform, you are not performing well. And why do you think they are ineffective? It's more complicated. Like why part is related to our behaviors, our motivation. It's more complex than to understand how. And again, I'm not asking think, pair, share at this point. So I wanted to start with these reflection questions. So these are part of the, you know, the reflection part of my presentation today, this reflection and metacognition part. So what is reflection? Okay, let's hear with your own words. Like, what do you think? What is reflection?
Looking back on something.
Looking back on something, definitely. What else?
Trying to process the reasons for why you did something and try to understand how it's beneficial or not beneficial.
Definitely.
So rethinking and just redoing.
These are great answers. Again, like I'm just copying and pasting a definition from a philosopher. So reflection is an important human activity in which people recapture their experience, think about it, mull it over, and evaluate it. So that's a definition I like. And the second definition here from Dewey. Dewey is a educational psychologist and philosopher. He's a very influential person. So he is defining as reflection involves not simply a sequence of ideas, but a consecutive ordering in such a way that each determines the next as its proper outcome, while each outcome in turn leans back on, refers to its predecessor. So these are two definitions, and you know, reflection is part of our life. We don't always naturally do. Sometimes people need prompts, scaffolding from outside resources to do reflection. And this is what we do. Like part of my research, we prompt students to reflect after each class, for example, throughout the semester about their learning experiences. And I will come back to that point, how we do that. And again, this is part of definition. So Rogers, for example, describing into three broad categories based on the general terms, based on timing, and based on the content. The interesting one is timing, I think. So we always think reflection after an experience, but it doesn't need to be. It can be a reflection before an experience. This experience can be a class, an exam, a semester, an internship, during the experience, right? And after the experience. So we typically used to this after experience thing. So for example, this is an example for an after. Let's say you're part of EPICS, right? So I don't know, maybe some of you part of EPICS for the past 2-3 years, or is it your first semester with the EPICS? Second, so it's a mix of history, right? So if someone asks you, okay, write a letter to students who would like to join the EPICS next semester, what should incoming students expect to learn? What will they find most challenging? What advice should they follow? All right? So this is this can be described as during an experience and after an experience, because you are still part of EPICS, but you have a certain experience. But this kind of information would be valuable for incoming people. Or you can think this as write a letter to students who would like to take a physics class at Purdue, let's say a required physics class or a computer programming class that you already experienced. So this would be very valuable. What should they expect to learn? What will they find most challenging? And what advice follow? Okay? So this is beneficial for you as creating these reflections. Also beneficial for these other people, incoming people, so they can get this feedback. So this is just one example. We use this letters to future calculus students, letters to future Purdue students. I mean, maybe some graduates are writing this, right? So they graduated from Purdue, and now they are telling to high school students. So things like that. So the other part, I was saying reflection and metacognition, my title. So these are big terms actually, and big terms within the educational psychology. So I'm trying to really narrow it down significantly, so make it very simplified. So have you ever heard this term, metacognition? How many of you know what metacognition indicates, refers to? Please, can you tell us, like, anything? Basically, thinking about thinking. So, again, we do this as human beings, but not always intentionally. Okay? So the metacognition refers to awareness of one's thinking and learning. Okay? Includes the processes that we use to plan, monitor, and assess our understanding and performance. And so what we do, monitor and self-regulate our thoughts, evaluate our current cognitive status in pursuit of self-imposed goals, revising our goals, motivating ourselves, developing strategies to make ourselves more capable of adapting. So again, these are big terms, but I will simplify them, okay? So I have this printout, again, if you can help me to distribute. So this is Metacognitive Awareness Inventory, okay? So you will see 52 sentences here, very simple sentences, and you will see true or false, okay? For example, the first one is, I ask myself periodically if I am meeting my goals. True or false? So this is, again, awareness. Don't put your names on it, okay? This is for you. Just, this may take like 5-6 minutes at most. So let's try to do this, okay? Again, there is no true or false in this one. This is for you to be having some understanding about this metacognitive awareness. And sometimes it's hard. This is saying only true, false, but maybe we need a category like sometimes, right? True, false, maybe always, never, often. pass this also. Right. If you can pass this, the key one. Yeah, you can just go. Maybe you need. Okay, as you complete that awareness inventory, there is also a scoring guide. Okay, so again, you don't have to score it now. It's for you. Keep this and keep the scoring guide so you can evaluate yourself based on these different categories like declarative knowledge, procedural knowledge, conditional knowledge, and related to regulation of cognition. All right, so why we pay attention to metacognition, okay, why it is important. So it's important because the prior research shows there is a strong relation between students' metacognition and their academic performance. For example, if you look at the planning-related items, I pace myself while learning in order to have enough time. I set specific goals before I begin a task. So students that tend to these type of behaviors, they are performing better than students who don't do these things, okay? So there's a strong relation between these planning, management, comprehension, monitoring, debugging, and evaluation. Therefore, we pay attention. Can we make a difference on students' metacognitive behaviors? Can we help them? Can we prompt them? Can we do anything so, they can learn better? So that's the main idea behind the metacognition. Okay. So again, related to prior research, successful students take charge of their own learning, and this taking charge requires learners be aware of their learning, to evaluate their learning needs, to generate strategies to meet their needs, and to implement these strategies. Okay, these are the things that we are trying to address. And couple examples, metacognitive exercises. So how is for example, if a student asks, how is my thinking changing or not changing over time? So you become part of EPICS. One of the main parts of EPICS is working in teams, okay? And you may have beliefs or some experiences or ideas about teamwork, right? So you may ask yourself, how is my thinking changing or not changing over time related to team-based learning or service learning? Okay, so this is one exercise. Okay. You can think about what's changing. Another exercise, let's say you are taking a calculus class and somebody telling you, or you are keeping a reflective journal and addressing questions such as, what about my exam preparation worked well that I should remember to do next time? What didn't work so well that I should not do next time or that I should change? So if you do that, like this behavior, if you show this behavior, you are keeping a reflective journal and you're writing this down after an exam, after a homework, like studies show this helps for the next time or for other classes. Another exercise, like metacognitive note-taking. So this is another example. So you're asking yourself what you already know about the topic for this class, so for a specific class. Let's say about the thoughts or feelings. In this section, you write down how you feel about this topic. So you have like maybe nervous, you're excited, you're curious based on your prior experiences related to that topic. Again, you can think about any class. Relationships and connections. So how this topic connects or relates to previous topics, things you already know. So how it's related to your prior knowledge. And the question, you list any questions you have on this topic before the class begins. So, you know, if you keep doing this, for example, in metacognitive note taking for each class, again, this shows, you know, students' academic performance increases. One more example, lesson wrapper. Okay, let's say before the lesson begins, I'm asking you that you will be asked to consider 3 key ideas from the class. Okay, so you know before the class starts, there will be 3 key ideas I would like you to tell me. Then, near the end of the lesson, now I'm giving you the time, write these 3 ideas, write them down actually. Okay, and then, as an instructor, I'm providing a list of 3 key ideas that I think these are the key ideas for that specific class. So now, you can compare, you know, what your 3 key ideas and what the instructor is providing. Then if you, like as an instructor or as a class, if you have time to debrief on that, you know, having a brief discussion about the similarities or differences between these key ideas, you can see, you know, your point of view and instructor's point of view. You can also see other students, right? Maybe the 3 key ideas you're thinking is very different than your friends. So why this is happening? So this type of activities help you to think about, you know, what's going on in this class. So that's another example of a metacognitive exercise. Okay, so again, I'm not going to read all these things, but based on prior research on educational psychology, metacognitive activities can guide and help students to identify what they already know and can help them enhance their academic performance. Okay, up to that point, it was reflection and metacognition. Okay, now I will start talking about my own research, like how this reflection or metacognition is related to my research. Okay, so one of the projects that I am the director is called the Course Mirror. Probably you never heard, like we didn't implement it Purdue extensively. So the main idea behind the project is, you know, think about the large lecture class, right? So let's say there are 100 students or 200 students or a MOOC, right? So thousands of students, these massive open online courses. One instructor, a lot of students. So the level of interaction naturally is very minimal. So somebody is keep telling you stuff and you just sit there. So it is very passive. It's similar to this one, right? So the main idea is, this is the reality of a lot of classes, especially at these large universities like Purdue. So the question is, how can